In 1970, Ford Motor Company introduced their first subcompact sedan, the Pinto. American consumers embraced this new vehicle with remarkable enthusiasm. However, there was one deeply troubling flaw. Even minor rear-end collisions could cause the automobile to burst into flames. Get ready, because today we're looking at the strange story of the Ford Pinto disaster that could have been stopped. But first, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments what other car stories you want to hear about. Now let's talk about this dangerous car that exploded way too easily. Before Ford released the Pinto, they tested 11 cars by crashing them. What they found was terrifying. 8 out of 11 cars had their gas tanks break open in crashes at just 25 miles per hour. The 3 cars that didn't break, they had simple, cheap fixes added to them. Things like putting a plastic piece between the gas tank and other car parts to stop sharp bolts from poking holes in the tank. Let me make this clear. Every single unprotected Pinto failed the crash test at 25 miles per hour. Ford's bosses knew this was a major problem and quickly decided to add these protective changes before selling the car. You'd think Ford would do hundreds of safety checks after discovering this huge problem, right? Wrong. They did absolutely nothing. They refused to pay just $11 per car to make it safe. The reason? Everyone was too scared to upset their boss. Lee Iacocca was climbing the ladder fast at Ford Motor Company. When he was just an assistant sales manager, he became famous across the country for a smart deal called 56 for 56. People could buy a 1956 car by putting 20% down and paying just $56 every month for 3 years. This clever thinking is exactly what shot Lee up to become president of Ford. Even before he became president, Lee was really worried about something. Small cars from other countries were taking over. Japanese and German cars like the Volkswagen Beetle were showing Americans they didn't have to drive the huge heavy cars that American companies were making. Lee was determined to build a small American car that would blow everyone away. And he wanted to do it faster than anyone had ever done before. Most car companies take about 43 months to go from a new car idea to actually selling it. But Lee wanted his small car in stores by fall 1970. That gave them only 25 months to build and launch the Ford Pinto. Nobody in car history had ever tried to make a new car this fast. They pulled it off through crazy hard work, smart tricks, and skipping steps wherever they could. When you're building a car, there's a really important step called tooling. This is when engineers figure out, test, and perfect all 500,000 parts that make up a car. Once they know exactly what parts they need, they give their list to a tooling company that builds the special machines needed to make those parts. Here's how it normally works. The tooling company waits until every single part is completely finished and the engineers are 100% sure everything fits together perfectly before they start making anything. But as you're about to find out, nothing about making the Pinto was normal. The tooling process normally takes 18 months, but Ford did it at the exact same time they were building the Pinto. So engineers were trying to figure out what parts they needed, while also figuring out how to make those parts all at once. Think about it like this. When you buy a Lego set, you get all the pieces you need, plus clear instructions on how to build it. But imagine opening a box for Bowser's Castle and finding just a picture of the finished castle with a note that says, Step 1, make your own Lego pieces and figure out how to build this castle. Step 2, good luck. That's exactly what Ford's engineers had to deal with. So of course nobody caught the dangerous gas tank problem until they were already building tons of cars. And when someone finally found it, they were too scared to tell Lee about it. A former engineer told Mother Jones magazine that anyone who brought bad news to Iacocca would get fired immediately. Talking about safety problems wasn't welcome at Ford back then. With Lee in charge, it was completely off limits. Anytime someone mentioned a problem that would delay the Pinto, Lee would clench his cigar, turn to the window and simply say, "Go read our goals and get back to work." Those goals were crystal clear. Rule number 1, the Pinto must weigh less than 2,000 pounds. Rule number 2, it must cost less than $2,000. Lee had this thing about matching numbers, just like his famous 56-56 fails trick. These hard $2,000 rules meant that spending even $11 per car to save lives was totally off the table. Sure, we can see the problem now, but back then Lee only cared about hitting that $2,000 target. Ford's ads bragged that the Pinto was priced like a small economy import, but it's frisky. Their marketing team called it the little carefree car. They promised customers that owning a Ford Pinto would end their worries about expensive prices, costly repairs, and poor value. Quick fixes? Affordable parts. You can swap out bumpers or fenders faster than any other car, they claimed. Too bad there was a small group of buyers who also happened to care about not dying in a fiery crash. Those folks definitely should have walked into a Pontiac dealership instead. The Ford Pinto hit the market in mid-September 1970. Just 6 weeks later, Ford had to recall 26,000 cars because of a serious problem. The gas pedal would get stuck when drivers pressed it more than halfway down. This was the Pinto's first recall, but definitely not its last. Another major design problem let gas and dangerous fumes build up under the hood. Eventually, a tiny electrical spark would set off a massive explosion. After getting reports of over 100 cars blowing up, Ford finally gave in and issued their second Pinto recall in just 5 months. Ford swore that nobody got hurt in these explosions, but that excuse wouldn't protect them much longer. Dennis Gioia ran Ford's recall department in 1973 when reports of cars exploding in crashes started coming in. In 2016, Gioia told Corporate Crime Reporter, "I usually need 25 to 50 reports before I recommend recalling a car." The Pinto file never had more than 5 reports. Still, Gioia says he wanted to recall the Pinto after he saw the burned wreckage of a crashed Pinto with his own eyes. But the recall office said there wasn't enough proof to go after Lee's favorite car project. Everything changed when Gioia saw a copy of the secret Pinto memo. The memo proved that engineers had found the deadly gas tank problem during crash tests 3 years before the car ever went on sale. This was huge news. But even with this smoking gun evidence, Gioia was told to wait and not issue a recall, and definitely don't talk to reporters. His bosses promised him that the company was doing serious new tests on the car to make sure it was safe, maybe even safer than other cars. They told him to wait for the results. When Ford came back and said the car was perfectly safe, Gioia believed them. This was the same company that had lied about their safety testing just 3 years before. Meanwhile, Ford ads kept saying Pinto may be the best small car buy in America at your Ford dealer. Ford says 27 people died, but others estimate 180 to 500 deaths. Nobody knows how many more were hurt when Pintos caught fire. Ford knew their cars were deadly but stayed quiet, hoping to pay off lawsuits without doing an expensive recall. In 1977, Mother Jones magazine got the secret Pinto memo and published Pinto Madness, exposing what Ford had been hiding. Ford sold the Pinto knowing it was dangerous. Fixing it would cost $121 million, but settling lawsuits would only cost $50 million. Simple math, if money is all you care about. Before this, nobody talked about the Pinto memo, but once the article came out, everybody was talking. Within 24 hours, the Center for Auto Safety asked for a Pinto recall. The government started investigating on August 11, 1977. It took them 9 months to confirm what everyone already knew: the Pinto's gas system was broken. The government scheduled a public hearing to investigate Ford's lies and cover-up. But before the hearing could happen, Ford surprised everyone by volunteering to recall 1.5 million Pintos. According to Ford's own numbers, this recall cost them less than 45 million pine, way less than fixing every car from the start would have cost. So Ford still came out ahead in the end, just like in Ford versus Ferrari. It's a happy ending, except for those 27 to 500 innocent people who died. So what do you think? What's the worst car you've ever owned? Tell us in the comments below. And while you're here, check out some of these other videos.